And he was.
All right, good morning, everybody. It's 9 o'clock, a little after 9. So we'll get started. If you haven't received any hot coffee in the back, we have hot coffee, some popcorn, and cookies, breakfast of champions. So go ahead and grab some of the treats and have a seat. We'll kind of go over format. So this is the May face-to-face. Thank you for coming out. The weather could be a little better.
Delicious.
But we're not in control of the weather. So format for these face-to-face meetings will be, this is your time to ask questions. We can highlight some of the agenda items that we went through at the board meeting. I see some new faces here that weren't at the board meeting last night. But really, this is your time. We have a mic over to the side there. If we're on camera being recorded, we'll have you guys recorded as well. Just put name and site number and open it up. This is your guys' time to ask questions. I'll try and field most of them. And we have board members here as well. There was a lot of resolutions on the agenda last night. And so we have board members up here to support any other questions you may have if you want to ask the board directly. We removed the Q&A from the board meetings this season. We tried it last season, and some feedback was the board meetings were taking a little bit longer to get through. And so we've really moved the Q&A questions for the members here for the Saturday face-to-face. So with that, I do have some writing questions. I can read off the writing questions first. They might touch base with some of the questions you have in the audience already. And then, yes, Andy.
Maybe you could just summarize what went on at the board meeting last night.
Sure. No, good question. So last night at the board meeting, we have a typical agenda. The agenda is online. We went through new members. The board approved new members. We had about 12 new members in the month of April, a little bit of slow sales. But what we are seeing is the shift in demographics. We had the majority of the members that came in to the park in April were in their 20s, 30s, and early 50s. We saw a lot of the 70s, 60s, 80s, grandma and grandpa starting to sell out their sites, and we're seeing the shift in demographics. So we went through that. The financial statements were approved for April by the board, and they were approved by the finance committee for both Sandy Pines and Lake Monterey. And then the board approved both of those. The budget, so the 2021, 2022, 2023 budget, we've done a process last year that seemed to be very favorable with, it's an ongoing review. So last year we didn't just hit it in April, May, and then let it sit and then have the board vote on it in August. We continually dust this off and provide updates to the board with. This month, we went through CPI index. So what does that mean to the members? The CPI index, per our bylaws, we take March CPI numbers for the Midwest region, and that's how the increase goes on the dues. March numbers were 8.6 for CPI. So what that means for member dues is it's about $125 additional cost to the dues. We continue to watch the split on the dues. The dues cover about 45% of operating budget. The operating budget is coming in. We took a look at from 2013 to what we're forecasting now. The operating budget continues to grow. It was about $5 million in 2013. And it's running close to a little bit over 7 million right now. And again, the dues cover about 45% of that. So from an operational standpoint, we have to offset 60% of that to continue to make certain that the parks are kept and a lot of the amenities that the members enjoy are there. So that is an ongoing review, and we review monthly, and then the board will vote on that in August. Yes, Joel.
For those of us that aren't accountants, what does CPI stand for?
That's your consumer price index, and that's an ongoing discussion that we're having with the board as well. So when you hear inflation and CPI index is a basket of goods. So how much does it cost for grocery items? How much does it cost for things in the market right now? What CPI index does not cover, it does not cover the cost of labor. So you'll see inflationary costs on labor and things of that nature. So the bylaws back when Standing Pines was founded, that was what they fixed it to. And that's what we take a look at. It's recorded every month by the federal government at state levels, and that's what we tag it to. But again, it doesn't cover healthcare costs increasing, labor costs increasing, and things of that nature.
So it's kind of like a cost of living decrease over the course of the year.
Yes,
But you're looking at it on a monthly basis from month to month. So just because it's at 8 right now, doesn't mean it's going to end up at 8 at the end of the year.
correct. So to give you an example, this little thing in 2020 called COVID, when that hit, the CPI index was tracking about 3 to 4%. March in 2020, if you remember, stock market crashed, all states shut down. That index was 1, right? It dropped from 3 to 1. So the CPI index that the members got for a price increase on their dues was 1%. But then if you track that throughout the year, things started to come back out of the downturn, and then that CPI index started to go up. So it's just a 1 month peg. It could be higher, it could be lower throughout the entire season.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We also, Ellen gave some comments in regards to staffing at, we've gotten a lot of favorable comments, staffing at public safety. We are, the last couple of years, we struggled with hitting our staffing goals. There's a lot of feedback as to, hey, where are the patrols at? Where are the PSO walking around the park? We did get some increased staffing out on the lake last year, but we still hadn't hit our numbers. And, our numbers are what we like to hit for the season is about 16 to 18 on staff for the season. That's full-time year-round, part-time year-round, and then seasonal. We ran on average the last couple of seasons at about 10. And there's various reasons for that. Trying to get staffing here, wages, things of that. What we were asking out of the applicants as far as, do we want retired police officers or do we want customer service people? We're trying to, figure that out. We've made some changes in public safety. Steve DeArmond and Paul Scott have done an excellent job of staffing the department. So right now we're sitting at 16 staffed individuals. Met with Steve and Paul yesterday, and we've got 2 additional applicants in the hopper. We're extending an offer to one. We get that one in approval on Monday and a start time. So we're close to 17. We should be at 17. So we're pretty close to the number. We're actually getting calls. I ran into a member out of phase 3, and they were wondering, hey, what's going on in phase 3? There's Jeeps driving around all over the place. You got the little white car driving around all over the place. Well, phase 3 was kind of forgotten last year, right? Tried to do the remote thing, manage that with remote cameras, letting people in. We're patrolling, and there's nothing going on in phase 3. There's no stakeouts going on. There's even a couple of foot patrols out there in phase 3, just walking around.
Yeah, that's really interesting when you look out and there's a PSO walking by waving at you, but it's nice. We really appreciate it.
So Steve and Paul have done an excellent job. They made that a priority. And so we're going to be at our numbers. Part of the discussion we'll get into some of the lake committee comments. Part of the discussion on the lake was, okay, we had some presence, but then it was there, then it was gone. We do have a dedicated boat patrol individual this season, Patty Isom, and she is gonna patrol that lake 40 hours a week. You'll see her a lot on the weekends and the holidays, and she will be patrolling it during the week as well. And that's kind of where we fell off during the week, was we really didn't have boat patrols out there. And we saw some shenanigans going on during the week with, you know, some of the wakeboarding and things of that nature, wake surfing. So she'll be out on the lake 40 hours a week. I think Paul Pepple made a comment, last night that he was out there. And if you haven't noticed, the water level is, you know, significantly higher than what it was last year. So Paul was trying not to, get the water over his head, and then Patty comes zooming by, and, you know, it was a.
Timing was terrible.
The timing was terrible. Where'd Paul go?
We were in over your
Throw me a
head.
buoy.
Right. So,
Yeah, I did. That was all about.
PSO is staff. We talked about, pool operations. There's one or two writing questions on pool operations. Kathy Striegel, who's our new rec manager, we finally decided to make that rec position full-time year-round. It was just too difficult trying to have a rec person come in right around April, May, put the entire season together in less than a month, and then hire and then deliver on a lot of the activities that we communicated to the membership. So we made a financial decision, as well as, you know, an operational decision to make that a full-time position. And we're already seeing rewards out of that right now. Kathy's done an excellent job. Winterfest, so we had 500 people show up for that. Cinco de Mayo a couple of weeks ago was really received well. And pool operations, some of the comments there, we're going to open the pools back up to state regulations. We are following state regulations in regards to lifeguards. We continue to struggle to hire lifeguards. We're losing them to, now that everything has been opened up from COVID, from 2020. When we were in 2020 and even into 2021, we were getting excellent lifeguards. Our numbers were up because the aquatic centers were shut down, YMCA's were shut down. Now that those facilities are back open, Sandy Pines, from a wage perspective for a seasonal employee, those facilities are paying about 15 to 16 bucks an hour. We're in the 9, 10, 11 range. So, and that's what we can afford in our budget. So right now we have 6 to 8, if I remember correctly, lifeguards. And there's a specific ratio, Kathy will know that ratio better than me, as to what we can adhere to as far as lifeguards and individuals in the pools. So from a pool operational standpoint, Kathy and I will be meeting on Monday. We'll finalize the capacity of the pool. We are going to have a capacity limit similar to what we've had in the past. We're a private entity, so we can set to that. And we're trying to balance let's make certain everybody has fun and we have the pools busy and having a good time. But there's a safety issue as well. If we have too many people in that pool and not enough lifeguards, we want to make certain that, you know, we're doing everything safely as well.
One thing I wanted to bring up on that too, as a member of the Safety and Security Committee, we had been looking at pool capacity and pool operations before COVID and trying to figure out a way, because they literally were not counting how many people were going in. And when you have overcrowding like that too, you also, your pool chemicals don't work well. So, you know, we had a lot less biological accidents when we had everybody get out of the pool and then get back in.
Right. No, great point.
And just so you know, in Chicago, a number of the park districts that run major pool and water park operations have shut down for the entire season. because they can't get enough lifeguards. One needed to hire 160 lifeguards. They could only get 40 applicants. So they're shutting the whole system down. They can't run them anymore.
Right.
So it's a big problem everywhere.
Thank you, Andy. Yes, completely agree. We are gonna have our pools open. We are gonna do the hourly rotation. We, through our pool committee, we did put some surveys out there. There's a question that I'll read. Did you ask every member their opinion of pool operations and the hourly rotations and capacity and things of that? No, we did not go door to door and knock on everybody's trailer and ask. We did put surveys out there. I want to say 2 to 3 times during the season last season. And the max, I think, I saw on there was about 300 members respond, and the response has been, we like the rotation. I can now bring my grandchild or my child to the pool. I don't have to worry about them, being scrunched, trampled over, things of that area, because it was kind of I wasn't here for this, but this is some of the feedback I've received, is when it was open, it was kind of a free-for-all. Back to Ellen's comments, the capacity wasn't being counted. And so the overwhelming feedback from those 300 applicants has been, we like it, continue to maintain it. If we can continue to try and increase the capacity safely, we'll continue to do that. So you will see an hourly rotation. We'll get the capacities posted on signs. The adult pool is swim at your own risk. There's no lifeguards out there. We trust that you adults can make decent decisions. So there is no lifeguard down there, but the other pools will get capacities to you as soon as possible next week, because we want those posted and communicated before Memorial Weekend. For Memorial Weekend last year, we did not have the pools open on Friday. We got a bunch of questions as to, hey, why? And I think they opened late in the afternoon on Saturday. I would say that, 4 or 5, if I remember correctly. We do have lifeguard staff. We will open it on Friday, and it'll be regular hours on Saturday. So all the lessons are communicated out on the website. Ian Mitchell, our communications manager, has done an excellent job redoing our website. We've taken a bunch of old stuff down, and that has freed up the searchability of the website. That was some of the comments that we had was, hey, it's hard to search for stuff. It takes too long. He's consolidated it. He's done, I think, a really nice job. We've gotten some positive feedback. And again, because Kathy started in December, Kathy and Ian have been tasked at the hip, as well as Ian and other departments, with the calendar and activities have been out there really since, I would say, January, February. So take a look at that for lessons and pool stuff. Old business, we talked about Lake Committee. Paul Peppel gave an update. We have 3 board members on the Lake Committee, and we have a really good group. But if you know, we have a rule that was a temporary ban of the ballast function on boats. And as we continue to get research and additional information brought in, that information is starting to show that, hey, this isn't a speedboat issue. We now have data from a pontoon company that has fins underneath the boat that can now drive that energy. And it's the wave energy that damages the shoreline, damages people's, our members' landscaping and the bricks along your shoreline. It's that energy that these boats create that slams up. Pontoons are starting to get that ability now. So the discussion at the Lake Committee is that rule is pretty much invalid right now. It's not a speedboat ballast function. And if you don't know what ballast is, you have the ability to load your boat with water, drop it, and kind of plow through to create waves at high energy. So your kids, grandkids can do wakeboarding and wake surfing. Pontoons are now starting to get that ability as well. So the recommendation from the committee brought to the board, which you'll probably see next month, is that ban is no longer valid because you can't just single out ballast boats. We're gonna look at banning the activity of wake surfing and wakeboarding. That means you just can't do it. It's also very difficult for Patty and other PSO that are out on the lake to determine, is that a ballast and is it not? And are they filling it? They have 10 people at the back dropping it, so they're really not filling the ballast. They're just putting extra weight at the back, so they're not in violation of it. If you get rid of the activity, then it's very easy. Are you wake surfing? Are you wakeboarding? If the answer is yes, that's a violation of the rule. So that's going to be probably the recommendation that you'll see at the next board meeting. Cartridge, so we gave a cartridge update. Cartridge is open. Gotten good feedback on it. Some feedback was, it's a little high up there and a little intimidating when you first go over it, but overall the view is nice. There's plenty of room for golf carts to pass through there. We still have some supply chain issues, lights on that golf bridge. We are looking at putting can lights or lanterns along one side of it to shine down to illuminate the bridge. Those are still on back order. You'll see some of that beautiful orange fencing that we have up there. The regular fencing is still on back order. We thought we had some fluff in there by saying mid-May is when this thing is going to open up. And we were planning on, end of April, 1st of May. There were some additional things from a safety standpoint that some of the safety individuals wanted done to protect members. So that took a little bit longer, but it's open. Provide us some feedback on what your thoughts are. We're starting to get some of it now, and it's a safer option. Yes.
Corn wagon, is that gonna be moved somewhere or is it?
Right now, the thought process, Andy, is corn wagon will be on the phase 6 side where that dirt road is, Turtle Creek set off the road. That's the thought process right now. So it's safer. It's safer for individuals. Now, what you're gonna have to do if you're in the park is you're gonna have to come over that bridge, wrap around and kind of park off to the side to the left of the bridge towards Turtle Creek. And you're gonna have to, walk over by that fence and do the corn wagon there. So, writing questions, we've already talked about. They're now face-to-face rather than the board meetings. And then there's a lot of activity with resolutions. There's 5 resolutions on the board that came in front of the board. We're receiving the feedback from the membership. Hey, when it comes to large projects, we want to say in it, we want to know what's going on. We'd like to have an opportunity, some input, and to vote on it. So the first 2 that we talked about are bylaw changes. They're bylaw changes to clean up some language. There was some first bylaw that is proposed on the ballot going for a vote is the 2.5%, where if we have a single construction project, the park and the board have the ability to move out of operations cash up to 2.5% of the operating budget to support that construction project cost. The new bylaw that's proposed kind of clearly identifies what needs to go to the board, what needs to go to the vote to the members, and what doesn't need, and we can just do it. So for all of these, you'll start seeing kind of campaigns for here's the data, here's the support. I'll put up some renderings on the screen behind me of the pool in the South Shore, but you'll start to see more information come out on these. The second bylaw is currently, if we do a resolution for rule change, the bylaws that were written, 50 some years ago was that rule change doesn't take effect until the printed newsletter is mailed out, the date that the printed newsletter is mailed out. When we look at our mailing list, we have more emails than we have actual mailing lists where members are starting to, hey, just email it to me. I like going on the email and getting it. So our actual footprints, mailings are going down, the email responses are going up. But our bylaws state those resolutions can't take effect until that printed newsletter is sent out to every member. So Larry came up with a bylaw recommendation for that includes now we're in an electronic world. So there's some time constraints in their time frame. Once it's emailed out, we just can't say, hey, we emailed you on Friday, and Mike, I saw you violating this Saturday morning, you get a fine. We're not doing that. There's a time frame, maybe just for Mike. Yeah, sure, right? Yeah, just for Mike. But there is verbiage in there that, you know, protects members. It's as immediate as it can be because we're electronic now, but members have a time frame to receive that before they can be written up for any kind of violations and fines. Let's see, Spectrum Charter. So that one was a lot of discussion on that one. Our contract with Spectrum Charter is a 2-year contract. That 2-year contract ended last fall. And Spectrum came to Kimberly and myself and said, how we're doing it today, we're no longer going to do it. Here's your new plan, here's your new costs. We're not going to support it unless you sign up for this. Have a good day. And we said, not so fast. Our bylaws state that this is, if we're going to have to assess every single member in the park, this package, which we'll get into those details in a minute, it has to be a member vote. And you're giving this to us in October and saying this is now the new price and the new program in April of 2022. So we extended the current contract. Modems are still coming. We were talking about modems earlier with, you know, how do people get the modems on the list? Our modems are allocated right now, and we were capped. Since we got the negotiation with more modems, modems arrived at Spectrum Thursday on the waiting list, and those are being what they call provisioned or assigned to each member. And then they're going to come out and they'll start doing the installs. But this project is basically stating they'll no longer support cable TV the way it is, and the modems are 200 Mbps, megabytes per second, download, 10 upload. The new modems that they want to hand out are 400 Mbps, download, and 20, so twice as fast. Yes, sir.
I don't think you want to say we don't support cable because the cable modems connect to cables. We don't support ClearQuant broadcast video audio. That's what we don't want to support that anymore.
Fair. So you're more technical on that than I am, Andy. That's why I called you in. So they are going to make an infrastructure investment in Sandy Pines. To Andy's point, you're still going to have the cable connection, but they have to update some of those infrastructure items throughout the park. So cable will still be there, but how they're servicing us and supporting us today is going to change. They're going to go more to streaming. There'll be an app that you can download. You still have a hardline connection to your TV. There's still going to be modems. You're still going to need routers, but the package that they have today is going to change. And in order to change, they're saying your contract is done. You have to go to this. So what does that mean to the members? Right now, everybody has the cable assessment, which is $136. That one will go away. Some members over 16, about 1,600 members. So the majority of the park has modems or on the list for modems. They're communicating that everybody's going to get a modem. You don't get a choice. Everybody gets a modem. That's $192. And both of those are for 6 months. So 6 months usage. What their package is in front of us today is cable upgrade, modem upgrade. The 136 goes away. The 192 goes away. Add those two up, it's 328. For $426, you get 12 months of service. You get an app that you can use throughout the park to download from any connection within the park. And you're going to get a faster modem, and you're going to get better better high definition television. So if you do the math on that, the 35 is going to be roughly 35.50 per member per month per year. That's where we get the 426. It's a 5-year agreement with Spectrum. The typical package, if you were to go out in the residential world, is $176.98. So for 426, you get roughly 84 channels, you get faster modems, better television, and that's 426 annual. This package out in the market is about $2,100 plus if you were to do it in a residential package. So what happens after the 5 years? After the 5 years, the contract gets, Kimberly and myself, we review, we have an annual meeting with Spectrum every fall. After that 5-year term is up, actually 6 months prior to that 5-year term is up, we're going to review pricing, we're going to review service, and either party has the option to automatically renew that for another 12 months, or we can provide cancellation notification and we part ways. The challenge with Sandy Pines parting ways is there is no other option. We've looked at 2 other companies. When we talked to them, they said, yeah, we do that out in Aspen, Colorado. And yeah, we do that here. And okay, what's the size of your community? What's the size of your campground? One had 125, 150, and the other one had, over 300. So we're a small city. We're 2,162 members. And they're like, oof, I don't know if we can support that, but we'll try. And then when you look at it, they have to connect to all of the Spectrum Charter infrastructure here. So that's a cost that they're going to have to bear because Spectrum is going to have to give them a thumbs up and charge them for that. Then that's going to get charged to us. So the short answer to this is we're kind of backed in a corner. We've negotiated the best pricing that we can for the membership, and it's over a 5-year term. If we vote no on this, then Spectrum Charter will take the ball and go home. They're not going to support us. So, yes, Andy.
But, I mean, today, internet is almost considered an essential service by probably the majority of people in this country, just like gas, water, and electric is considered essential. If we say no, and they turn everything off, I mean, we're screwed. We can't vote no on this. That would make no sense. If we have no other option.
Completely
So,
agree.
I don't even know if it makes any sense to let the members have a vote on this because
We have
don't
to.
Other option.
You have to.
You have to.
Yeah,
It's required by the, it's an assessment.
Yeah, well, and the other thing, 2 things, Andy. One, we have to have the members vote because one, it is assessment. After you and I talked, I dug a little bit deeper into the bylaws on that. Hey, you guys don't get a vote. It's essential. Thanks. Have a good day. You can do that to a specific point of impacting membership on costs. This is above and beyond that. So this has to go to a vote.
Because I was going to say, in 2014, when we switched from the residential model to this corporate account model, clear-prong broadcasting, there was no member vote on that. The technology committee made the decision, the park made the decision, and they just did it.
Yep.
And we put the 129, which then got up to 136, and again, no member vote on that. But now we're saying that because of the increased cost of the membership over and above, we need to vote.
Well, I think one of the other things we thought about was the fact that members had an opportunity to say no, they didn't want internet, even though 1,600 of them do.
Right.
And so this is going to mandate that everybody has to do this. And so we, as a board, decide that, this is one of those areas that we need to let the members have an opportunity.
And actually, the cable assessment was voted on initially in 2010. And because there wasn't a cable then,
Right.
the park, if you were here in 2010, okay, that's when it was decided initially that the park had the opportunity to go cable wide or park wide. But the only way that could be done was via an assessment, which was similar to what this situation is. So that's how that original cable TV cost was burdened by the entire members. was in 2010 be an assessment.
Right. So you're right. We need to make the push to, we have to vote yes on this because we see people working remote all the time here. Moving on quickly to South Shore. So South Shore FEMA project, again, I'll put some renderings up there. There's a ballot out there. The board voted to move it to a member vote. Again, it's a large project, not to exceed Sandy Pine's out-of-pocket cost of $2 million. The assessment is $231.27, I believe, per member per year over a 4-year program or 4-year term. So the decision point on that is we have in our capital reserve that was voted on and approved by the members in 2017, a line item for the phase 1 pavilion to have roof updates and that building being fixed. A couple of things on that. One, we did an engineering assessment in August 2021. That building is starting to move towards the lake and we're starting to see foundation cracks in it. But the bigger picture is the roof on that. If you've seen it, it's a bunch of little Pizza Hut roofs. And it's the engineering individual said, his technical term, it's a train wreck. It's leaking all over the place. This would be just a roof project, tearing that entire roof down, a complete redesign, new trusses, completely new roof. That does not include getting any of the HVAC or electrical to code. That's a 50-year-old building. The roof cost alone was $310,000 from quotes back in 2021. If you, and in the capital reserve budget, there's 300,000, I believe, in the capital reserve budget for that. So we're already over cost. Materials and labor are about 25 to 30% higher now than they were back in September and August when we had some of these costs evaluated. So the short answer is you're about $100,000 under what we would have to cost or pay for today just on material and labor for a roof. It's going to cost about $400,000. So if you take 30% times the 310, you're roughly at 90 grand, 90 plus grand. But now you're at 400,000. Electrical and HVAC was coming in at, I want to say 150. And then the patio that faces the lake has some foundational issues as well. We got a cost of about 25, if I remember correctly, thousand for that. So all in, you're looking at $560,000 for that building. The capital reserve has 300,000. Do we want to spend that on a building that is underutilized right now because everybody comes here? Or do you want to put that into a building? And again, I'll put renderings up here that has activity centers. It's a safety shelter, again, certified shelter that phase 1 and phase 2 individuals can go to. This building was utilized twice last year for take covers. So that's going to be in front of the membership. Joel, you got a question?
So a couple things, right? One, it was $310,000, not in reserve for that building. Is that $310,000 that go towards a new building? It's still loaded up. And two, the vote. Is the vote whether it's fixed or replaced, or is it just on the replacement? And if it's just on the replacement, in the event that it gets voted down, members say, no, let's not do that right now. What's the alternative? How long do we have on that building, right, before it became full building? They closed it, right?
Yep, no, so good question. So the answer to your first question is the resolution that was read last night that was drafted is to replace the phase 1 pavilion the indoor pavilion with a new building, which would be the South Shore Activity Center. So it's replace that building. That's what we're voting on. If it gets voted down, then that $300,000 stays in the capital reserve that is allocated to that project. And then either A, we can move to a different project, or B, from an operational standpoint and a board standpoint, what's the best decision for Sandy Pines? Do we want to put money on a building that is already kind of moving? Second answer to your question, I don't know how much longer that building has. For being 50 years old, the engineer said, it's not in bad shape, but it needs some work. But then you go back to, is it being utilized? What can that building be utilized for? I did get a writing question about, again, I wasn't here for this, but apparently this individual, is communicating, this building was sold as an adult activity center. You know, we want ping pong tables, we want indoor shuffleboard tables, we want all these things in this building. So go do it. We could potentially do that, but again, we don't know what the life is of that building. But if you do a FEMA project, those things then take place of human lives that can be saved. So indoor shuffleboard tables aren't going to be allowed in a FEMA shelter. Ping pong tables, things of that nature aren't going to be allowed. These tables right here during an emergency, you pop these down, they can stack up against the wall, get everybody in here as quickly as possible. You're not going to be able to be moving these shuffleboards and things of that nature. So we got a decision to make.
But pool tables can be folded up too. I mean, ours at home folds up and puts against the walls.
Pool tables or ping pong tables?
Ping pong tables, I
Ping
think you
pong.
mean.
Ping pong.
Yeah, I hope-
I have not seen a pulled up.
Hey, I was trying to envision how you would.
Yeah, fair
I want
point,
one of
fair point,
those.
fair
There's
point.
some things you could do, you know, I mean, you could put shuffleboard on the floor, that would take any space up. I mean, there's some things you can do.
Right. And that, and that's what, you know, that activity center has is shuffleboard, indoor pickleball. It has a basketball court. We'll have, the plan is to have poles, kind of like an indoor gymnasium at the high school where you can use indoor volleyball as well as basketball court, things of that nature. Yes. Bill.
What's the proposed cost of that building and what is the amount of the FEMA grant that would be sought?
So again, Sandy Pines would not pay more than $2 million for that. The initial quotes are coming in at 6.2 to 6.4 million. But the cap is for Sandy Pines to pay no more than $2 million. And that's what the assessment is calculated on.
But $2 million is more than 25% of the cost.
Fair point. But again, what we saw with this building is some of the ancillary costs almost went through the roof and almost put us over. When we said, if I remember correctly, we said we're only going to transfer up to $1.5 million out of operations cash into this building as we start. So what's ancillary costs when you see that resolution? Ancillary costs are pavement for new parking lot, landscaping, some of the lighting that we had to put out here. That's not covered under the FEMA costs. So at the end of the day, it's still going to be 25% of a dollar is going to be spent by Sandy Pines. 75% of a dollar is going to be spent by the government, but it's going to be capped at $2 million. The challenge that we have in that area is we don't know again, when you look at the drawings in the building, the dairy dip is, again, a 50-year-old building. When this was an onion field, that's where the migrant workers slept. So that's a 50-year-old building. We own that. Jim Werner owns the lease for the dairy dip. Our commitment to Jim is we give him a safe, good building to work in. Conversations with Jim right now are, hey, this building's, what are you going to do? Because it's starting to have issues as well. So we're collapsing that into the FEMA shelter. That FEMA government cost will not cover the dairy dip because there's going to be ice cream machines in there. There's going to be tables in there. There's going to be a bunch of stuff that you can't move around. So that's going to have to come out of our costs as well. So some of those ancillary costs, that's why we're capping it at $2 million. Yes.
When we work with FEMA, are we restricted on certain contractors that they request? Or pick our own? How does that work?
Yes and yes, to answer your question. So I'll explain that. So it's a government contract. It's going to be open for bid. It's an open government contract bid. But what the FEMA guidelines are going to show is They have to meet these kind of requirements. So there's only one company, and this was one of the delays for this building. There's only one company in the nation right now that makes these tornado hurricane-proof windows. And they're down in Georgia. And we tried, they strung us out and delayed. But FEMA says you cannot use anybody else except them because they meet our hurricane and tornado certifications. So general contractors, as long as they have experience with FEMA buildings, that's what they're gonna look for. So it's kind of a mixed bag, to answer your question.
So how many contractors do you request for bid? Didn't you say last night about 2 of them?
Good question. So we did estimates with 2 for the pool. For this building, I wasn't part of that process. I want to say we went through 5.
Open bid and
Open
open
bid.
bid.
Yeah, it was open bid and 5 came in.
Because I was going to say that I would request 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I think last night, if I remember correctly, the pool in phase what, 2?
2, yes,
has been postponed for, for numerous years, right?
yes.
So then the last time it was quoted, I think you said it was $500,000, right?
In 2017, it was quoted at $500,000.
And then last night you said it's up to 2 million.
Again, that project will be capped at 2 million. We've had 2 construction companies take a look at and provide estimated cost, depending on the size of that pool, anywhere from 1 million to 1.7.
How about maybe getting 4 or 5 bids on that?
Agreed. But again, so here's, this is kind of the chicken or the egg, right? So in order for you guys to provide your input and say, yes, we want to vote on this, and yes, we want to move this forward as a project for Sandy Pines, we're taking estimated numbers and we're trying to give you some direction. So again, right now, when we had the 1 million, 1.7 million, that was last fall. We're trying to add 20, 30% onto that because of inflationary cost, and we're trying to put a cap. And then if it gets passed, then we go through that process of we have what we call a RASIP chart. Here's our expectations of suppliers. We'll put it out for bid. We had 5 people quote the bridge. All right. And then we narrowed it down to really 2 that could do it within our time frame, within our cost structure, and we awarded it to Millbacher. So I completely agree that we don't want just 1 or 2 people looking at it. The more people you look at it, the leverage and costing, right?
We'll get better competition.
Agreed.
Hopefully we'll get a better price.
Agreed. Now, again, when we talk about the pool is not necessarily an assessment. I think I made that correct statement last night and was corrected. When you look at the resolution for the pool, the money is there for the pool. It's on the list for capital reserve project at $500,000. The request of the members is the current bylaw states we can transfer 2.5% of the operating budget to support a project that might be over that initial estimate. So if you do the math, $7 million at 2.5% is about 170,000-ish, 175,000. That gets you 675. If it's going to be 1 million to 1.7 million, we're going to the membership. We have the cash on hand. It's sitting in operations. You need to approve us to move that balance from operations into capital to do that project. If you vote no, then that $500,000 stays there, and then we move on the list to a different project.
Well, there's no cost to you,
No cost.
No additional cost.
no additional.
For the pool. Yes.
Is the drawing the only option the membership has, or are we going to be given options as to what kind of pool we want?
Well, again, that's going to be the chicken or the egg, right? So this was feedback that the pool committee received. We had, I want to say, 3 or 4 different kind of versions of pools. And this is what the pool committee narrowed it down to. 0 entrance. If I pull this up here. So this is the phase 2 location of the pool. Here's your pool over here. There's gonna be a parking area in between the pool, and then here's your pickleball courts in phase 2. This is overlooking the lake by where your disc golf is. So again, what we talked about last night is Sandy Pines is kind of landlocked right now with drainage fields and things of that nature. And this is, when we had 2 construction companies come through, they both said this is probably the best spot for a pool. So from a high level, this is what the pool looks like. It's gonna be 60 by 100, and you have spots for chairs, tables, things of that nature. If I go to this picture, you're gonna have, this is facing the lake. That's a little misleading. That is gonna be the park behind it. This is facing the lake. You're gonna have 3 bathrooms / changing areas there. You have an ADA ramp that people can walk up to. You have bathrooms inside the pool, 2 bathrooms, 1 male and 1 female. And this little lip right here, vertically challenged, so apologize. This little lip right here is what we call zero entrance. So pools right now, this is gonna be 5 feet deep. Pools right now, you just step off and you're in 5 feet. This is gonna be a gradual slope called zero entrance where you can walk in. You can see chairs are actually in the water, people are laying in it. So it's gonna be a shallow end, and then you walk into it, and then there's a part where it will drop and you get into the 5 feet deep area. So,
So this whole thing elevated up off the ground?
this is not. So when you look at that area, this is almost like an infinity look. When you go to that area in phase 2, there's a flat space where the playground equipment is and the Gaga pit. It's flat and then it drops off to the lake. So this pool will be on that flat area, infinity look overlooking the lake. And then this is the drop off. So they're actually gonna pour the concrete and use that slope, that drop off as part of the foundation.
Okay.
Yes.
So how long have you been talking about a pool in phase 2?
I would say since I've been here, since 2019, right? Probably
It's been a lot.
before that.
And I agree, they need a pool in that area. I have one question.
Yeah.
When we first started talking about a pool in phase 2, was the rendering the same then as what we're looking at now?
No,
No,
So how much did you dial it up?
great question. See me after class. No, so from what I understand, in the files that I have, when the first original pool was drafted, there was a 40 by 60 and a 60 by 100. This is 60 by 100. So the difference is, not that much, as far as length and width. Some of this other stuff, to give you an example, from what I see in the files, when this all was kind of conceptualized, it was a phase 3 pool in phase 2. And feedback from members through the pool committee is, we don't want another phase 3 pool in phase 2. We want something different. And this is what they came up with. Yes.
Would that be incorporating the existing shuffleboard courts and the 2 pickleball courts will stay where they are?
They will stay. Great question. So again, that's where,
Previous picture.
yeah, these are existing, and this is just a blow up. Your parking, you would have some parking. Now we can dial down some of that parking. That's a lot of parking there. And that parking would only be for golf carts. We have seen in the past, and I have gotten feedback from these 2 individuals that, hey, there's cars parking back there and they're lining up and putting their flash or their headlights on and they're playing pickleball and stuff like that. This will only be golf cart parking, not be, the only automobiles that will be allowed back there will be the maintenance trucks.
There's no separate kiddie pool, right?
Correct, no separate.
The problem we have now is it's all interconnected. When there's an accident in the pool, it shut the whole pool down. If they had a separate kiddie pool, and they could just shut the one pool down and let the rest of the, people stay in the other pool.
And we went back, the pool committee went back and forth on that to say, do we want to incorporate another mini water park here or a splash pad or a kiddie pool? And no, because feedback has been the teenagers and the adults don't like going to the water park because of all the kiddie stuff. So this would be more in lines with the tweens, the young adults in that area.
But don't be, the teenagers like a deeper pool. I mean, they like to dive in, to dive down. I mean, that's what the indoor pool is considered.
Completely agree, and again, the pool committee, we debated this back and forth. When you get 8 feet deep or deeper, your costs increase and your lifeguard expectations and training changes.
And your insurance costs go up.
And your insurance cost goes up, thank you.
And we really haven't had the biological accidents since we started to go to the hour, 50 minutes in and 10 minutes out.
I don't
That's
know
almost completely alleviated.
if anybody's been to a pool with a zero entrance. Those zero entrance pools, it's really nice because the parents can get right in the water with the kids. I've been to one and people can sunbathe right in the pool. People that are, disabled can get in there easier, it's a really good family concept.
And what I have up now on the screen is the South Shore. You're gonna have kind of a hangout area up front at the entrance. You have a basketball court, indoor pickleball courts, shuffleboard. You have some hangout areas. You have some activities. Again, so a CC. One of the questions I think that came up was showers and restrooms. You're gonna have, I'll get to you in a minute, Bill. You'll have showers and restrooms here because the CC would be replaced. And ice cream store, so that would be collapsed in there. And this is the concept right now. Yes.
What is the proposed square footage of that building?
If I remember correctly, I believe it's 17,000.
And what is the size of the existing pavilion?
I don't know that off the top of my head. Not 17,000.
Not even close.
Not 17,000.
So the center part is for FEMA, for the.
So, yeah, good question. So here's what FEMA would cover. FEMA would cover this. They would cover this. They would cover this, anywhere where you can save a life. So pretty much the majority of this building, with the exception of the ice cream.
So what's people's capacity at 5 square foot per person, whatever?
I want to say, so this building here, if I remember, is about 1,100. It's 2.5x, if I remember correctly, for that building. So twice as much.
Twice as much?
Yeah.
So 2,200? So let me just ask a follow-up question. It's not obvious to me what the long-term 20, 30, 50 years out strategy is for storm shelter placement throughout the entire park. It started in phase 3 with replacing CCs, which I thought was not a bad idea because to me, proximity is the key issue. When a storm comes, you want to get there quick and fast because a lot of times you have 10 minutes or less to react to it. Now we're building big buildings like this and another building that houses 2,000 people. And to me, if a tornado's coming and 2,000 people have to all of a sudden congregate in one spot, it's mass chaos. I can't imagine that that's going to go well. So I just wonder, what is the long-term strategy here? Is it better to build mega buildings or is it better to have smaller located buildings throughout the entire park? What's the real strategy here?
So good question. The typical things, one, the strategy is the biggest bang for Sandy Pines is buck, right? So if we're paying 25 cents on the dollar for this, the other smaller buildings are going to be out of our own pocket, right? So that, from my understanding, when we started kicking off some of these FEMA projects, that was, we did get some FEMA grant money, from what I understand, for 1 or 2 of them in phase 3. And then in talking with township leadership, state of Michigan, you know, these larger buildings where, all right, where do I go? Do I go to this one? Do I go to that one? Everybody knows to go to this building and get there now. So 25 cents on the dollar for Sandy Pines and larger centrally located buildings where everybody can go to. So they know this is your shelter in case of an emergency. That's from what I understand is a strategy.
I just wonder whether or not if it really happens on a 4th of July weekend or whatever, and there's 20,000 people in the park. When we used to go into work into an office building, we would every month or two have an emergency fire drill. We knew exactly which hallway, which staircase, what door to exit. We could fix 2,000 people in a matter of minutes. We haven't had any emergency drills here. I mean, let's say, okay, everybody, let's have a drill. So 1,000 people congregate in this building all at once and see how that goes. So that when it really happens, people aren't getting trampled, people know what to do.
Andy,
Yeah.
I can answer that.
Okay.
I did fire inspection for years and I ran drills. Now, when you do it in a company, everybody has to do what they were just told.
True.
When you do it here or in a nursing home, everybody does whatever the hell they want.
That's very true.
You're gonna have a lot of people, oh, it's the emergency drill, it's just the emergency drill. I'm not going. I know where to go. And that's what happened. And then and you could, the reason we don't do them in senior center homes is because you can tell them in the morning, you can tell them at lunch, and then have the alarm at 2 in the afternoon. Half the people think it's real.
And they're
Some of
gonna
them
panic.
don't go. I mean, it's not, you're not gonna get the cooperation to do it. But trust me, in the event of something like this, if people hear the sirens go off and they are of the mind that, well, maybe the tornado will hit this time, they will find whichever building they're supposed to get to real fast. The CC's always filled up by my place. I mean.
Yeah. Well,
That said, though, it might be interesting to do a scheduled drill with volunteers. Out of, you know, just so that people know.
just
And
so
then,
the volunteers know what to do. And, you
Right.
know,
right,
I want to piggyback.
I think that's a good idea.
I want to piggyback on Jim's comments as well. So this community doesn't have that drill, but during the off season, Steve DeArmond, who's in charge of our safety and security, every off season, he has a mass casualty drill with staff and volunteers, and public safety will go through that. Where do they go? If there's mass casualties, how do you separate? Sorry, Andy, you're critical, you're over here. I got to go to Bill because I can save his life, right? So he goes through all of that. We have an emergency action plan that's in place that Steve has drafted, and we look at that every off season. You know, we had questions with some of the elderly with, hey, these doors are too heavy to open. They're FEMA guideline doors. We can't change that. You can't put a handicap button where it automatically opens. So part of the action plan is the first responders are public safety. They funnel the people in, they open the doors, they put their lives at risk first, and he trains them and goes through that every offseason. Joel, question.
I do want to explore this, that Andy's talking about here is one big building, by small buildings throughout the park, right? Because the park is pretty spread out, right? So there's also limitations when you deal with FEMA, right? Talk about life-saving space, right? That's what you're going to pay for. So some of the stuff that the park members want from this building, the ping pong table, the pool tables, you know, the shuffleboard tables, you know, stuff like that. We're still not gonna be able to get that going through FEMA, right?
Correct.
So we got these limitations. It might be worth exploring, right? Doing something like we did in phase 3, right? Where CCs are going to need to be replaced, right? They're old buildings too. It's coming time, right? So that is definitely something I feel that would be on the table to look at, right? Do we make those buildings a little bit bigger, right? House more people because the park has expanded, right, throughout the years. But putting those smaller ones, right, throughout the park, talking about life saving, right? And accessibility to them quickly and fast. It just might be something worth exploring than putting all of our eggs in this basket, you know, because we do this. I mean, she was not going to replace the CCs as well as life-saving areas, you know? So
So fair point, fair comment. We can absolutely take a look at that. I'll just be very transparent. I still have a hard time finding CC 11 and 12 in phase 6. I've been here 3 years, so, some of our CCs, from what I understand, are, you know, landlocked because of the proximity of some of the trailers. So expanding them might be a challenge, right? But updating them, we have CCs on the list on a regular basis. Ben and team will go through and start updating them and making improvements to them. But fair point, you know, do we want to take a look at, we can take a look at that, absolutely.
The reason I asked about strategy is, you know, we're right by CC 12, which was recently renovated.
Can you show me where CC 12 is at, Andy?
It's in the middle of nowhere.
See that big tower there? It's right kind of straight back.
Okay.
So before it was renovated, the land came all the way up the walls. So basically, the only thing that was exposed was the roof. The renovation, they took all that away and exposed the walls and renovated the whole place. And it's very nice. But I thought, from a storm perspective, what we used to have was more storm-proof than what we've got now with exposed walls. And so I wonder what's the long-term strategy, especially in phase 5. We can't drive all the way around the lake to get here. Can't drive all the way to phase 3. So I don't know.
Fair point, yes.
I have an easy question. What is the footprint of this? Is it going to fit on where the current pavilion is, or does it go onto the tennis courts or the sand, or how is that
Yep.
positioned over there?
So good question. Right now, based on what we've worked out with the engineering company, you might lose the volleyball court area, you lose that CC, you lose that parking lot. The tennis courts, outdoor tennis courts and basketball courts would not be touched. So you would start probably from that volleyball court and start heading towards the dairy dip that way. So parking, volleyball, things of that nature, where would that go? And again, this goes to ancillary costs. Then dairy dip would come down, and then we'd start putting either volleyball area up there, and we would have to rethink on the parking. So
So that current, like the picnic shelter that has no walls, that would disappear and be replaced by this. And I mean, that's where you're going, right? With it, the playground.
from the volleyball courts to the, yep,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome. Yes.
What's in that drawing that can be put in this building the way it's already built? So you've got indoor basketball courts
Yep.
that can be put in here?
No.
Why?
For an indoor basketball court, you need about a 24-foot high ceiling. And the length of the court, you can't, I mean, right here, you can't shoot a 3-pointer without hitting the ceiling.
Nobody was thinking that. I can't see paying that kind of money put on the beach to have an indoor basketball court. That to me does not make any sense.
Well, and again, that's what we're putting in front of the membership. You know, you have your vote in your position, and you can say
is the
that.
facility going to be open in winter?
Facility would be open in the winter, yes.
So it's either this or nothing, the way we vote.
Well, right now for this project, yes, this is the South Shore activity, because if you want to start changing things, then again, back to the comment on the pool, then you start changing the costs, and then we go back to square one with what's the impact to the members. So right now, this is what we have on the assessment for 4 years at $231 per member per year.
So where do 2,000 people park when we're all running to get into a specific building? Where even in this building do you park?
Well, where you park is, we've got parking out here already. And in
2,000 people worth of parking?
here, you have 1,000 that fit into here. And back to my earlier comments, that this is where this building is at. That parking lot across the street is not gonna accommodate everybody here. So that's part of the ancillary cost, is we're gonna have to think about additional parking and where that goes.
Where did this concept come from?
This concept came from, maintenance, safety and security, input from prior, FEMA, committee members that worked on this building, the state, the township.
We'd like the basketball courts and the shuffleboard, all that, how'd that all get incorporated?
Feedback, well, a couple of things. One, feedback from this building, again, from what I understand, there were original drawings that had definitely shuffleboard. And then when we started building it, and FEMA came in and said, and the construction company came in and said, well, wait a minute, you want to put shuffleboard on that lower level? You got those pucks going against glass and against drywall, you know, it's gonna damage, you're gonna have a bunch of damage in that building. So if we can't put it here, indoor pickleball, indoor shuffleboard, that came back from member feedback. It would be nice to have more pickleball courts and shuffleboard courts. So let's put them indoors. Basketball court, that was some feedback with, hey, if it's off season and during the rain, in season, let's put some activities that we can put in-house. Yes.
What kind of a population do you have in the winter months? Have that open year round, what is it gonna cost the utilities to keep that and nobody's around?
Right. So great question. I don't have an answer for you because we're still gathering the cost for this building during off season, right?
We got 50 families across the street.
So we have to estimate that cost. Don't have it right now from an operations standpoint. We're 13 minutes over. I want to get to the write-in questions real quick, if I may. All right. We have a few write-in questions. Number one, why are all meetings on Friday? Many people cannot be there, work and children are in school. Can we change? So, again, the process from what I understand, well before me was, you know, every third Friday of the month, the bylaws state we have to hold five meetings throughout the season and the year. Fridays were established, and during COVID, we were doing them 3 to 5 because we were recording them and sending them out. We weren't open to have meetings. We moved them back to 7 to 8:30 to allow for people to get here. Again, from what I understand, when the schedule was implemented, the majority of the population are here 24/7, 6 months out of the year. We're starting to see that population shift. So we're gonna continue to maintain the Fridays, 7 to 8:30. Can we move current dog park somewhere and make it bigger? No obstacles. So was that you, Joel?
No.
Okay.
But I agree with you. Or an additional dog park that isn't mud.
That was the follow-up question. Can we do an additional dog park in phase 1 or 2? So
Phase 4.
we have that, I don't have an answer for you right now. We'll review that with maintenance, and then we can add it to our off-season list as things to review and look for. Why is the Schwann's truck no longer in the park? That's a great question. Every year, we see him parked at the store across the street, you know, either filling up with gas or getting a pop or something along that lines. We have gone over and asked him, hey, what do we need to do to be back into the park? And his response was, it's not on my route, but you're sitting across the street.
Yeah.
So, we've tried the last 2 years, my 2 seasons here. And, for whatever reason, they're not interested in coming in.
They have supply chain issues too.
The Schwann's guys I talked to those guys before, and they loved it. Matter of fact, that's why we had one guy steady, and then all of a sudden it started rotating.
There were two.
Because the other guys found out how much money they could make sitting there.
Yep.
Is there a cost to them to come into the park?
The only cost that we would ask them to pay for would be like the contractor fee to come in, just set up your truck, right now, the structure that we have for food trucks is you have a seasonal contractor fee, and then there's some sort of revenue sharing with them in the park. For Schwann's, because they're not making anything, they're just park their truck, so it'd be like a contractor fee. But
$200 a year.
Yeah, $200 a year. So we've asked them, hey, give us some input. What do we need to get you back in here? And their response is, you know, we're not in our route. We don't have any interest at this time. So we can continue to, we've sent emails and we place calls out to them. So. This goes back to some of the conversation on the South Shore. Please consider making the building in Phase 1 Pavilion an adult rec center. We were misled that there would be one in the new building. We need a place for card tables, pool tables, shuffleboard, etc. We need to have it adult access only. So this is trying to accommodate some of that, the South Shore.
But again, people will cover that cost.
Correct. If you're putting stuff that cannot be torn down into a life-saving space, FEMA won't cover that cost. I know there's talks about another pool. Would an indoor pool be an option to vote on? Also, I think the chapel parking lot would be great for flea markets, and then the new pool could be in the area where the flea markets are currently held. That way the disc golf course can stay at the Phase 2 park. So again, through the pool committee, we sent out surveys and we did evaluations, indoor versus outdoor pool. The outdoor pool for Phase 2 is on the project list. Feedback has been, you know, we just want a pool, give us a pool. So that's kind of where we're at. From what I understand, an indoor pool was on the ballot. I know it was tied to something else, but the indoor pool, from what I understand, didn't pass. So this is on the list. Members have said, yep, we'd like to get a pool in here. So let's go after this one. Yes.
Is the lighting canopy something they looked at? It doesn't have to be an indoor building, but at least something that's got a sunny day, you open a canopy and close it up. And yeah,
Right.
You know, something like that.
We actually did look at one rendering that was outdoor. Anybody here heard of this little place called Bunker Hill? Yeah, okay. So when you go to the new addition of Bunker Hill with the garage doors, we looked at a pool like that. Feedback, no restaurant.
There you go. Swim up bar.
No swim up beverages either, Joel. We did take a look at that, Andy, and the outdoor pool kind of came on top. So, good question.
Is that pool gonna happen?
Which pool? The Phase 2 pool?
The Phase 2 pool?
It's up for vote.
It'll be on.
It'll be on the ballot and it's up for a vote. So it's in the members' hands. Moving the flea market to the chapel parking lot, that, I think that would be a tough one, to try and do. So I think that one would be a discussion with the chapel committee, low probability on that one, but it doesn't. I'm sorry?
What would the advantage be if you were to move it?
Well, what they're saying on this is put a pool there and then move the flea market over. So, is it possible to get new parking lines painted at the ice cream store? So I'll circle back with maintenance. I know we did that last year and they kind of wore off. So we'll have to take a look at, are we gonna do that again this year and timing on that? Two other ones here. How can we get our internet to work? We haven't had it since we purchased our site in April. We were told by Spectrum to call the 1-800 number and the 1-800 number is not working. I don't know if anybody's had that issue. Again, Abby in member service, bless her heart, she has been working diligently with Spectrum. We just had an upper level discussion with them. They need to fix these issues and they need to fix them now, especially if we have a new proposal coming to the members for them to vote on. So we do have, we're going back to our old process. Abby is adding people to a service call list and a modem list. She is scheduling with Spectrum. Spectrum was actually out in the park yesterday, and Thursday doing trouble calls. So we're starting to see some movement on that, but it's not as fast as we want. So we'll continue to. Andy, go ahead.
It strikes me that we really need a good tech support team in this part, an IT support team. And I've helped dozens of people with their internet issues. And it's usually their problem that I can fix for them. But I can foresee when we move to the streaming app, it's going to be, man, I can predict it's going to be, there are so many people in this park who are technology challenged. And I'll tell you, I've spent actually a couple hours trying to figure out how to use the streaming app, even though we're not currently using it. And sometimes I can't even figure it out. It's going to be, I can predict, mass chaos. And so when you, for the first thing I tried was, okay, I got Fire Sticks. Amazon, very popular. Everybody uses Fire Sticks. Can you use the streaming app on Fire Stick? Nope, absolutely not. Okay, it doesn't work on a Fire Stick. So the problem people are going to have is, how do I get the app? And then how do I make the app stream it onto my television? And a lot of people are going to have a lot of problems with that.
Right.
And so there's going to have to be a lot of instructions and a lot of help for people. And I know member services, if you go to them, they're going to get overwhelmed by this. So we're going to need a support team inside the park that's going to be able to help with this. And I'm willing to participate in a help team, but I don't want to be the only contact.
Call Andy. So let me answer this question on the team. So two things. One, what we didn't get into with Spectrum is what I've seen over the last 3 years, 2.5, 3 years that I've been here and dealing with Spectrum is, oh, well, you're full, so you got to talk to these guys. Oh, well, you're kind of like a hotel, you're hospitality, you got to talk to these guys. Oh, well, you're kind of residential, but you're not, you got to talk to these guys. The proposal that we have in front of us is a community solutions division that specifically deals with small communities, anywhere from 25, like a campsite, to up to 25,000 sites. They say they do this day in and day out. So your direct line will no longer be Abby, is what they're presenting to us. There'll be a direct line to them. If you don't get bounced around from call service, they do have to put their money where their mouth is and show that the service, they're gonna walk that talk and deliver on that. The other thing is, back to your comment on technology here, Bob Powers, who leads our technology group, he and I are meeting, and that is on a topic of discussion as, do we have our own tech support team? The challenge with that from a Sandy Pines perspective is, one, it would be a scope change, the board has to approve because the committee's already reporting to the board. But the larger concern that we have to get into is, hey, I got an issue, but I don't know Andy. And Andy comes into my trailer, and if anything happens, my TV blows up. Is that Andy's fault? Is that Sandy Pines' fault? Whose fault is that, right? So, right, is it Spectrum's fault? So there's a waiver in liability issue as well that we have to iron out. So that's part of the conversation that we would have.
Well, there must be a hardware issue because the hardware's not necessarily owned by St. Cloud. It's going to be owned by Spectrum.
Correct, but if we have Andy going into Joel's and connecting those two, if I'm Spectrum, well, Andy doesn't know what he's doing, so that's Andy's fault, so that's Sandy Pines' fault. So you can kind of see where that web is going.
Well,
Right? We got
St. Pines is going to be able to work on Spectrum's equipment.
No, but it would be the connectivity that you could help with.
Touch the electric meter, right? That's owned by the power company.
Right.
Power company,
Right.
you touch the electric.
So, I got one in the back, and then, yeah.
On the positive side, about a week and a half of my trip with Abby, he suggested I call Spectrum. I had a little bit of a runaround at first, I finally got into the business portion. And I gave them the MAC number off the modem. They scheduled me, they came out 2 days later and fixed it.
Good.
Good. We're seeing progress. Okay,
Good.
thank you. Yeah.
Well, the only other thing I want to share, I want to drag this out, is we have a condo in a 55 and older community. So you can imagine what happens whenever you do anything with cable or internet or whatever. And when it was Xfinity, Comcast, when they changed us, they provided a small support team that came like, what, 3 or 4 Sundays in a row.
Yeah.
They said, we'll be there this day, this day, this day, this day. So if you're having trouble, we'll help you talk through it. And that was awesome.
Okay.
Because there were a lot of people in there that, like Andrew said, that had no idea what to do. So maybe that would be something they'd be willing to
Negotiate in there.
provide us.
Okay. No, that's,
I think the biggest
that's a good point.
advantage though that this has is that everybody will have their own Spectrum app user account.
Correct.
So when you call them, you can give them your individual account number that will link directly to your site and they'll know exactly who you are. You won't have to go through this corporate account business anymore. I think that'll be a big help.
Right.
To connect with the right people at Spectrum.
Agreed. Now, one of the follow-up questions for Spectrum is, can we get DVRs and things of that nature? Those are going to be add-ons. So you can add that on to your,
Individual account.
you can go into individual account. So that's not going to be covered under the Sandy Pine. But when you go in and back to Andy's point, and you put all that information in to get the app, you're going to put your name, address, billing address, things of that nature. So if you want to get HBO Max, you have the ability to get that. They bill you directly. They don't bill Sandy Pines. If you want a DVR, you can get that. They'll bill you directly. They don't bill Sandy Pines. So you have the ability to get DVRs, but you'll pay for it separately.
That's still be a plug-in for streaming devices, right?
Yes.
Just when you meet with Powers, you know, and this whole technology support thing, somebody, and I don't think it's going to be Spectrum, needs to put together a series of presentations for the membership on how to do. There are literally dozens of ways to use the Spectrum app. You can put it on your phone. You can stream your phone via HDMI cable. You can connect via VCast to your TV. You can use a streaming device like a Chromecast or an Apple TV. You can use a Samsung Smart TV and stream directly onto the phone. There's lots of different ways of doing this. And everybody's going to be doing it differently. Somebody needs to put a presentation together that says, here's the 20 different ways that you can use this app, and here's how you use each one of those.
It sounds like you're ready to do that.
Sorry, Andy.
I am not volunteering to do this, but I'm just saying that
What he just said.
there's.
Well, Andy, if you do that, you won't have us calling you every week.
Everybody's going to want to be doing this differently, and everybody needs to understand all the different ways that you can use this app, and how to use them correctly, and somebody needs to explain all this to the membership.
One additional comment on Spectrum, and then I'll get to the last question. We're about a half hour over time here. We are narrowing a minimum of 2. We want to try to get 4 dates out here where Spectrum will either come to a face-to-face. We have specific time and date for Spectrum representatives to talk to the membership, hear from the membership. And then back to Andy's point, we can put presentations out there. They can field questions. So we've definitely told them in June and July, we want them here for at least our face-to-face meetings. So we're going to try and get them in front of the membership as well to answer some of the questions. Yes.
Our link isn't here anymore, so are we still PSO certified or whatever the
For like paramedics and things of that nature?
for gun control?
Oh, PA 330. So right now, certified to carry handguns, things of that nature. That's on hold right now. Good question. Some of the individuals that we have put in leadership position, the process has restarted, and we have 3 individuals that we're kind of targeting they've already gone through the first step. They've passed that first step. PA 330 and carrying handguns throughout the park is tabled right now. We're going to reevaluate that in the off-season. Okay. Yes.
Now that the board has voted to put these resolutions on the ballot, it is really critical for all of us to come to these meetings to give the information And when we talk to people and they, you know, the rumors start flying, we need to encourage them, come to the meetings, watch it online, and you'll have the answers. It's really going to help get these things passed.
Agreed. We will over communicate. We can't stress enough that the official communication channel for Sandy Pines is the Sandy Pines official website, the Sandy Pines official Facebook page. It's not the other two pages that have a bunch of members on it. We still have new members coming in saying, well, I thought that was the official. No, the official communication and the official position of the board and the park runs through our website and our Facebook page. And that's where we need to start driving. So any help this group and spread it out to everybody else, those are your official website or your official communication channels. Thank you for that. The last question is, we would like some more information about Sandy Pines and the outpost. I think that means Outback. That was in the newsletter. That was a terrible write-up of information. We feel he has done a great job for Sandy Pines and is a great asset to the park. We've had several people that have tried running a restaurant and or grocery store and have all quit Sandy Pines. Why is that? Makes us think there is a reason for it, that Sandy Pines is lacking in agreement. So we did put a communication out there in footprints, just to be as transparent as we can. There are some pending things that are still going on, so we're not going to share a ton of information at this time. This started in 2019, where we've tried to work through other options with the owners at the Outback. It's been a struggle. We've provided many different ways to try to come to a resolution. Those responses have been no. So unfortunately, in 2020, we had to pursue litigation. There's two cases out there, like we've talked about in the footprints. There's one where the original agreement from the previous owner and that previous owner left Sandy Pines because this was supposed to be their retirement. And it wound up not being their retirement because there's still monies owed. That's case number one. Case number one was ruled in favor of Sandy Pines, so that money is owed. And we communicated that into the footprints. I can't speak to other owners of that prior to my time. I do know the structure is it's on a lease for X period of time. And after the end of that lease, people have the ability to renew it or they have the ability to leave. And the previous owner had chose to leave because they were getting at that age in life where they didn't want to do this anymore. The other case that's out there is called a lease tenant agreement, where the premise of that case is that individual owes Sandy Pines money on the lease and has not paid it. So that's where we stated, okay, we need somebody to, mainly a judge, to say, does this individual owe this or not? And then there's also a term in the contract from a Sandy Pines perspective. That lease was up April 30th of this year. We do have other individuals that are calling us, asking us if that lease is up because they want to take over that business. We forwarded them to the current owner, who has rejected them from what I understand. So we've tried to provide options. If it's a poor agreement, as it's alluded to in this comment, part of the resolutions were, let's get out of the agreement, then we'll part ways. Nope, we're not going to do that. So we've tried to the best of our ability to come up with a resolution which is mutually amicable, and we just haven't been able to do it. So that's kind of where we're at today. Stay tuned. It's still pending on that second court case. That first one has been decided on. So, and with that, last one, Andy,
I got 10 more on my list here.
What do you like the most?
Well, I was gonna, you mentioned like about staff. I often see people on social media praising our staff, and I always say that's well and good, but you need to fill out a staff survey. Now, there is no current link on our current website for staff survey, but the Survey Monkey web link is still active. So I don't know if we're still using that, but I always tell people posting it on full social media, they're never going to see it. You need to give feedback directly via staff survey. So are we still collecting those? Are we still using those? I don't
We
know.
are. Yes, we are.
Okay.
And the conversation with Ian and communications, from what I understand, and even when I started here, we kind of collected that information at the end of the season. Well, by September, everybody's gone, right? After Labor Day, everybody's gone. So let's have that open and live. So that should be, a lot of the stuff should be popping up the first part of June, because that's when we start seeing people come back as Memorial Weekend. So good point.
So when I send them that Survey Monkey link, that will eventually get to the right link.
It goes to, Ian has all those links and downloads that information, and we do review that regularly. Yes. Okay. All right. I apologize for being over. Great conversation. Appreciate all the comments and questions. Have an open door policy. If you have anything else, stop by and see me. All right. You guys have a blessed day. Thank you.